It's July 14th in Paris. Tanks roll down the Champs-Élysées, jet fighters thunder overhead, trailing smoke in the colors of the French flag. The crowd cheers as the French Foreign Legion marches by, dressed in crisp white uniforms, axes slung over their shoulders. This isn't wartime, it's Bastille Day, France's national holiday, and every single year, they do it like this: big, loud, and proud. In Moscow, Victory Day looks like a Cold War throwback. Columns of soldiers, missile launchers, nuclear ICBMs creeping past the Kremlin. And in Beijing, you better believe the Chinese Communist Party knows how to throw a military spectacle. Rows of synchronized troops, cutting-edge drones, hypersonic missiles on flatbeds, all broadcast worldwide to show the world that China has arrived. But in America, the strongest military on Earth, the most powerful force the world has ever known, won't even roll a Humvee down Pennsylvania Avenue without a political meltdown. Every time the idea of a U.S. military parade comes up, whether it's for honoring our troops, celebrating independence, or showing strength, you hear the same reactions. It's fascist. It's unnecessary. It's too expensive. It's what they do in dictatorships. So today we're asking the question that no one in D.C. wants to answer. Why is America, the last great superpower, so afraid of military parades? And what would it really mean if we finally held one again? We didn't always shy away from showing our military pride. In fact, for most of American history, we flaunted it. Let's go back to 1865, the end of the Civil War. Washington, D.C. was flooded with Union soldiers, marching in what became known as the Grand Review of the Armies. Hundreds of thousands watched as General Sherman's and General Meade's battle-hardened men marched through the Capitol in a two-day celebration of victory and unity. Fast forward to 1946, New York City. 5 million Americans lined the streets as General Eisenhower led a victory parade down Fifth Avenue. Just a year earlier, more than 80,000 troops had marched through Manhattan after the defeat of Germany. Tanks, artillery, flyovers. It wasn't controversial, it was patriotic. Even in 1991, after Operation Desert Storm, President George H.W. Bush oversaw a military parade in Washington celebrating U.S. forces. That one featured 8,800 troops, stealth bombers, and even Patriot missile launchers rolling past the White House. So what happened? When did we go from cheering our troops on Fifth Avenue to arguing about whether they should be seen at all? Because for most of our history, a military parade wasn't seen as dangerous or authoritarian, it was seen as American. The fight over military parades? It's not really about the tanks, or the costs, or the logistics. It's about something much deeper. Somewhere along the way, American culture stopped being proud of its military. Not just in government buildings, but in schools, in movies, in the media, even in neighborhoods where nobody flies the flag anymore. It's become controversial to say you're proud of the U.S. military. It's seen as political to thank someone for their service. And if you suggest a parade to honor our troops, you're accused of being a warmonger. When did patriotism become offensive? Because make no mistake, France isn't doing it for show, China isn't doing it for fun, they're doing it to unify their people around the one institution that still commands respect, their armed forces. What do we unify around? We used to build movies, schools, communities around service and sacrifice. Now we argue about whether it's even okay to clap for soldiers at an airport. So yeah, maybe the pushback to military parades isn't a fear of looking like North Korea, but a fear of looking too much like America used to. Of course, the moment you bring up a military parade, the critics crawl out of the woodwork. Same talking points, same tired outrage. Let's deal with them, one by one. It's too expensive! Right, like we're a country that's never wasted money before. We send billions overseas, fund government programs no one can explain, and can't account for over $220 billion in Pentagon spending. But honoring our troops for a day? That's where we draw the line? It looks authoritarian. Really? When was the last time people called France fascist? They roll tanks down the street every year and no one says anything. It's unnecessary. Unnecessary to who? Ask the veterans who came home to silence. Ask the families who lost someone in Afghanistan and Iraq. You think they'd call a national show of gratitude unnecessary? We'd call it overdue. At the end of the day, these aren't real objections, they're just excuses, wrapped in fear, wrapped in politics, fear of pride, fear of unity, fear of standing tall and saying without apology, Yes, we have the most powerful military in the world. Yes, we're proud of it. And no, we don't need to explain that to anyone. Imagine rows of veterans standing tall, the jets overhead, tanks on the National Mall, American flags everywhere you look, and cameras capturing it all for the world to see. Now ask yourself, what would that say? To the enemies watching from across the ocean, it's a reminder. A reminder that America still knows how to show up. That we're not divided beyond repair. That when it matters, we still stand shoulder to shoulder. China is building islands in the South China Sea and flexing hypersonic missiles. Russia is waging a war in Ukraine and daring the West to get involved. Iran is pushing its nuclear program closer to the edge, threatening allies in the Middle East. And let's not forget North Korea, still firing missiles and releasing propaganda as if it's 1953. Maybe it's time someone reminded them how strong we are. This country used to celebrate strength, now we apologize for it. We used to honor our troops in the streets, now we argue over whether it's too political to wave the flag. A military parade wouldn't be for politicians, it wouldn't be for the media, it would be for our troops, for our people. If you believe America should stand tall again, if you think it's time we honored our troops without shame or silence, then make sure you're subscribed, because we're going to keep telling the stories that no one else will. And if this video fired you up, drop a comment. Would you support a US military parade? Or do you think the critics have a point?